The night sky above the human farming colony was calm and full of stars. Nothing moved except the soft wind across the dry fields. Small lights glowed from houses in the distance. It looked like an ordinary night. Then everything changed. A loud sound broke the silence. It came from high above, like metal screaming in pain. People rushed outside and looked at the sky. A burning object was falling fast through the clouds. Fire trailed behind it like a long red tail. Children cried, dogs barked, men shouted warnings. The object crashed beyond the wheat fields with a force that shook the ground. Dust rose into the air, windows rattled, birds flew from the trees. For a moment, nobody moved. Then fear turned into curiosity. Several villagers grabbed flashlights and tools. They walked carefully toward the crash site. Among them was a quiet man named Elias. He lived alone at the edge of the colony. He was known as kind, but strange. He spoke little and helped everyone without asking for anything back. When the group reached the field, they stopped in shock. Half buried in the dirt was a silver ship unlike anything they had ever seen. Its surface was smooth, glowing faintly under the moonlight. Strange symbols flashed along its broken side. Smoke rose from the damaged engine. "It's not human," one man whispered. Nobody stepped closer, but Elias did. He moved slowly, watching the ship carefully. A broken door on the side opened with a hiss. Cold air escaped from inside. Then came a weak sound, a cry. Not loud, not strong, small, painful. Everyone froze. Another cry came from the darkness inside the ship. Elias lifted his flashlight and entered. The inside was narrow and filled with sparks. Wires hung from the ceiling. Strange seats were torn apart. Containers had broken open across the floor. At the far end of the ship, something moved. It was a girl. She looked young, maybe 16 by human years. Her skin had a soft blue glow. Silver marks ran across her arms like living patterns. Her large eyes were filled with fear. One leg was twisted badly. She tried to move but fell back in pain. She was not human. The villagers outside stepped back when they saw her. "An alien," someone said. "She could be dangerous. Leave her there." The girl heard their voices. Tears filled her eyes. She pressed herself against the wall and trembled. Then something even stranger happened. A small screen on the ship lit up. A message began to play in a sharp alien language. No one understood the words. Then the machine changed to simple human speech. It said, "Cargo unit damaged. Subject unfit for return. Mission continues." The message repeated again, "Subject unfit for return." The field became silent. They were talking about the girl. They had left her behind. She was alive, injured, and afraid, and her own people had abandoned her like broken equipment. The villagers looked at each other with unease. "If her people did not want her," one man said, "why should we?" No one answered. The girl lowered her head. She understood enough to know what they meant. Elias looked at her for a long moment. He saw pain, fear, and something deeper, hopelessness. He slowly removed his jacket and placed it around her shoulders. She flinched, but did not pull away. Then he turned to the others. "She is coming with me." The villagers stared at him. "Are you mad?" one shouted. "We know nothing about her. She could bring enemies. She is not our problem." Elias did not argue. He bent down carefully and lifted the girl into his arms. She was light and cold. She looked at him with confusion. No one had touched her gently before. He carried her out of the ship and began walking back through the field. Behind him, the burning wreck crackled in the dark. The villagers followed at a distance, whispering fearfully. At Elias's small house, he laid her on a bed near the fire. He cleaned the wound on her leg and wrapped it. She watched every movement, ready to fight if needed. But he only worked in silence. Then he placed water beside her and stepped back. "You are safe here," he said. She did not understand every word, but his voice was calm. For the first time since the crash, she stopped shaking. Outside, the colony did not sleep. People stood in groups, talking about the ship, the message, and the alien girl now inside Elias's house. Some said the military should be called. Some said the girl should be sent away before more aliens came. Some said Elias had made a terrible mistake. But deep in the night, a hidden machine inside the broken ship suddenly turned on. A red light began to blink. Far above the planet, something answered. In the dark sky, unseen by human eyes, 3 silent ships changed direction. They were coming back. And this time, they were not coming to rescue her. Morning light entered the small house through the cracked window. Dust floated in the air. The fire in the corner had become weak, but the room was warm. Outside, Birds sang as if nothing strange had happened. Inside, everything had changed. The alien girl was awake. She sat against the wall of the bed, holding the blanket tightly around herself. Her large eyes moved across the room, studying every object. A wooden table, old books, farming tools, a cup of water, a closed door. She was planning escape. Her injured leg shook when she tried to move it. Pain crossed her face, but she made no sound. She did not want the human to hear weakness. Then the door opened. Elias entered slowly, carrying a bowl of warm soup and fresh bread. He stopped when he saw her trying to stand. "You should rest," he said softly. She did not understand every word, but she understood his tone. She stepped back and grabbed a metal tool from the table. Her hands trembled, yet she pointed it at him like a weapon. Elias looked at the tool, then at her frightened face. He gently placed the food on the table and raised both hands. "I will not hurt you." She stared at him. Her breathing was fast. In her world, kindness was often a trick used before betrayal. She had learned that lesson early. Elias slowly sat down on a chair near the door, leaving space between them. He did not move closer. He did not try to take the tool away. After a long silence, the smell of the soup filled the room. The girl's eyes moved to the bowl. She had not eaten since before the crash. Still, she did not move. Elias took a spoon, tasted the soup first, then placed it back in the bowl. He pointed to himself, then smiled slightly. Safe. The girl watched carefully. Finally, she lowered the tool. She moved to the table with pain in every step. She kept her eyes on him as she picked up the bowl. Her hands shook badly. Before she could drink, the bowl slipped. It fell. Hot soup spread across the floor. She froze in fear. In the ship she knew, mistakes were punished, sometimes with pain, sometimes with worse. She stepped back quickly and lowered her head, waiting. But Elias only stood, grabbed a cloth, and cleaned the floor. "No problem," he said. Then he brought her another bowl. The girl looked up slowly. Confusion replaced fear. Why was he not angry? She accepted the second bowl with both hands and drank in silence. A few minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Elias opened it slightly. 3 villagers stood outside. Their faces were serious. "You should not keep that thing here," one man said. "She is dangerous," said another. "We heard strange sounds in the night. She will bring trouble to all of us." Elias remained calm. "She is injured," he answered. Nothing more. The first man looked past him toward the room. "Then send her away before sunset." Elias closed the door without replying. Inside, the girl had understood enough. Thing. Dangerous. Send away. Her hands tightened around the empty bowl. Elias noticed her expression. He pointed to the chair, then to the bandage on her leg. He knelt and carefully changed the wrapping. She winced in pain, but did not pull back this time. As he worked, she noticed scars on his hands. Old burns, deep cuts, hard years. This human knew pain too. When he finished, he placed a small object on the table. It was a tiny carved bird made from wood. He pushed it toward her. A gift. She touched it carefully. No one had ever given her anything without asking for something in return. For the first time, she spoke. "Why?" Her voice was soft and broken. Elias looked surprised, then smiled. "Because you need one." She repeated the word quietly. Need. Later that day, she sat near the window while Elias worked outside. She watched him repair a fence, feed animals, and greet neighbors who refused to greet him back. He was alone, just like her. Then she noticed something strange. From beneath her sleeve, faint silver lines on her arm began to glow brighter. They moved like living light under her skin. She quickly covered them. A sharp pain hit her head. Images flashed in her mind. Alarms, soldiers, a royal chamber, voices shouting, someone saying, "Find her before they do." She gasped and nearly fell. Elias rushed inside. He saw the fear in her eyes. She pointed at the sky with a shaking hand. "Bad ones. Coming." Before he could ask what she meant, every light in the house suddenly went out. Outside, the animals became silent. The wind stopped. Then, from far above the clouds, 3 dark shadows moved across the sun. The alien girl's face turned pale. "They found me." And this time, she knew they would not leave anyone alive. Darkness covered the house, even though it was still daytime. The 3 giant shadows passed over the fields like silent monsters. No engine sound, no warning, only fear. The villagers ran from their homes and looked up. Some dropped to their knees, others shouted for their families to hide. Elias stood at the doorway, staring at the sky. Behind him, the alien girl was shaking. "They are not rescuers," she said. "They are hunters." Her voice was stronger now, but full of terror. Elias turned to her. "Who are you?" She looked away. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she slowly pulled back the sleeve on her arm. The silver lines beneath her skin were glowing brighter than before. They moved in circles, forming patterns like living stars. "This mark is not decoration," she said. "It is blood sign." He did not understand. She took a slow breath. "My name is Lyra." It was the first time she had shared her name. "In my world, only one family carries this mark. The ruling family. The line of the Star Throne." Elias stared at her. "You are royal?" She gave a bitter smile. "I was." Outside, a loud sound rolled across the land like thunder. One of the ships was lowering closer. Lyra closed her eyes. "My uncle wanted power. He could not take the throne while I lived, so he arranged the attack. My guards were killed. My ship was damaged. Then they sent the message you heard. Subject unfit for return," Elias said quietly. She nodded. "They called me broken, so no one would ask questions." Elias looked at her injured leg, then back to her face. "They did this to you." "Yes." Another shockwave hit the ground. Windows rattled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The hunters were near. Elias moved quickly. He locked the door, closed the curtains, and grabbed an old metal box from under the table. Inside were tools, wires, batteries, and hunting knives. Lyra watched in surprise. "You are preparing to fight?" "I am preparing to survive," he said. She almost laughed, despite the fear. Outside, a deep voice echoed across the colony from the sky. It came through some kind of translator. "Return the royal subject. Resistance will be punished." The villagers panicked. Many began pointing toward Elias's house. Lyra's face fell. "They will give me away." Elias looked through the window and saw people gathering in the road. Some carried sticks, some carried farming rifles. Fear had turned them into a mob. He opened a floor panel near the bed. "Can you fit inside?" She looked down. It was a narrow storage space. "And you? I will handle them." Before she could answer, loud knocks hit the front door. "Open it!" someone shouted. Elias helped Lyra into the hidden space and covered it with a rug. He placed the wooden bird beside her. Then he opened the door. 5 villagers pushed inside. "Where is she?" one demanded. "We heard the sky message. She brought death to us." Elias stood firm. "There is no one here." They searched the room, throwing blankets aside and opening cupboards. One man moved toward the rug. Elias stepped in front of him. The man raised his rifle. "Move." For one dangerous second, no one breathed. Then a bright blue beam shot through the wall. The rifle melted in the man's hands. Everyone screamed and fell back. A hole the size of a door now burned in the side of the house. Through the smoke, a tall, armored alien stepped inside. Its eyes glowed red behind a black mask. More figures stood outside. The hunter had arrived. It scanned the room. "Life sign confirmed," it said. "Royal target detected." Its weapon turned toward the rug. Elias grabbed a lantern and threw it at the alien's face. Glass shattered. Fire burst across the mask. The hunter stumbled backward. "Run!" Elias shouted. Lyra burst from hiding and rushed through the broken wall, limping into the fields. 2 more hunters landed ahead of her. She stopped. There was nowhere to go. The first hunter tore off its burning mask and aimed a weapon at Elias. "You protect prey," it said. Elias held only a farming knife and a metal hammer. Still, he stepped between them and Lyra. The hunters laughed in cold, metallic voices. One raised its weapon. Then the ground exploded beside them. A buried fuel tank near the field erupted into flame. Dirt and smoke blasted everywhere. Elias had triggered it with wires from the old toolbox. The hunters were thrown apart. Lyra stared in shock. This human had planned for them. Sirens from the colony began to ring. Animals ran wild. Fire spread through the wheat. In the chaos, Elias grabbed Lyra's hand. "Can you run?" She looked at his hand, then nodded. Together they ran toward the forest beyond the fields, while burning wreckage fell behind them. But high above, the largest ship opened like an eye. A red beam scanned the land. It locked onto them, and Lyra whispered the words she feared most. "They're sending the commander." The forest swallowed them in darkness. Tall trees blocked the firelight from the burning fields behind them. Smoke moved between the branches like ghosts. Every breath tasted of ash. Elias and Lyra ran deeper into the woods until her injured leg failed. She cried out and fell to one knee. Elias stopped at once. He listened. Far behind them came heavy steps, metal steps. The hunters were tracking them. He helped Lyra stand and guided her toward a narrow path hidden by roots and bushes. Few people in the colony knew these woods better than Elias. As a child, he had spent years here alone, learning every stone, every stream, every place to hide. "This way," he whispered. They moved through thick trees until they reached an old hunting cabin made from dark wood and stone. Its roof was broken on one side, but the walls still stood. Lyra looked surprised. "You lived here?" "Long ago." He pushed the door open. Dust filled the air. Inside were old shelves, rope, tools, jars, and a rusted stove. To Lyra, it looked like ruin. To Elias, it looked like a chance. He sat her near the wall and examined her leg. The bandage was wet again. "You need rest. You need weapons," she replied. He almost smiled. Outside, a red light swept through the trees. The commander was searching. Lyra's face changed. "You do not understand. Normal hunters obey orders. The commander enjoys pain." Elias opened an old chest and removed metal traps, wires, and hunting flares. Then let him enjoy surprises. For the first time since they met, Lyra laughed softly. It ended quickly. A deep sound shook the cabin, not from the ground, from the sky. The trees bent as a black ship lowered above the forest. Wind blasted leaves in every direction. Birds fled into the night. Then silence. Something landed outside. Slow, heavy, certain. The cabin door shook once, then again. Then a voice came through the wood.
"Fight for the people,
Royal subject, return
revenge.
willingly. Human will die quickly." Lyra closed her eyes. "It is him." Elias handed her a small knife. "If I fail, run through the back." He blew out the lamp. Darkness covered the room. The door exploded inward. A giant armored figure entered, taller than any hunter before. Black armor covered his body. A long scar crossed the metal helmet. One red eye glowed. In one hand he carried an energy spear. The commander. He scanned the room. "No heartbeat, fear," he said. "Interesting." He took one more step. A hidden trap snapped shut around his leg. Steel teeth locked hard. The commander looked down. Then wires above him ignited. 3 heavy logs swung from the ceiling and smashed into his chest. The wall cracked from the force. Lyra gasped. The commander did not fall. Instead, he ripped the trap from the floor and threw it aside. "Better," he said. A flare burst in his face. White light filled the room. Elias rushed from the side and struck the commander's arm with a hammer. The energy spear dropped. Elias kicked it away. The commander grabbed Elias by the throat with one hand and lifted him into the air. Lyra threw the knife. It hit the commander's shoulder joint. Sparks flew. He dropped Elias and turned toward her. "Princess," he stepped forward. Elias seized the fallen spear and activated it by accident. Blue energy roared along the blade. The commander paused. Now the human had a real weapon. They circled each other inside the broken cabin. Elias had no training. The commander had years of war. The first strike came fast. Elias barely blocked it. Sparks exploded. His hands shook from the impact. The second strike cut the table in half. The third tore through the wall. Lyra watched in terror. He cannot win. But Elias did something the commander did not expect. He stopped fighting like a soldier. He fought like a farmer. He threw dirt into the commander's eye sensor. He kicked broken boards under his feet. He used the narrow room, the low roof, the smoke, the chaos. Ugly moves, unfair moves, human moves. The commander swung hard and got stuck in a support beam for 1 second. That was enough. Elias drove the energy spear into the armor chest plate. Blue light burst through cracks in the metal. The commander staggered backward and crashed through the doorway into the mud outside. The forest became silent. Then the commander laughed. He stood again, damaged, smoking, still alive. "You are dangerous," he said. "Now I understand your species." He pressed something on his wrist. Far above, the black ship answered. A beam of red light aimed directly at the cabin. Lyra's voice broke. He is going to destroy the whole forest. Elias looked at the sky, then at the wounded commander, then at Lyra. There was only one chance. He grabbed the commander, locked both arms around him, and dragged him into the open clearing. The red beam charged brighter. Lyra screamed his name. The commander struggled, but Elias held on with everything left in his body. Then the sky fired. The red beam struck the clearing like the anger of a god. Light swallowed the trees. Heat rolled across the forest. The ground broke open in a ring of fire. Lyra was thrown backward into the mud, covering her face with both arms. Then everything became silent. Ash drifted through the air like gray snow. Where the clearing had stood, there was now a deep black crater. Burning roots glowed around the edges. Smoke rose in slow waves. Lyra forced herself to stand. Elias! No answer. Her heart pounded as she limped toward the crater. Every step hurt. Every breath shook. At the edge, she stopped. Two shapes lay below. One was the commander, broken and half buried under stone. His armor was split open. Red sparks jumped from dead circuits. The other shape moved. A hand reached up through the ash. Lyra slid down into the crater and fell beside him. Elias was alive. His clothes were burned. His face was cut. One arm hung badly at his side, but he was breathing. She touched his cheek with shaking fingers. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this?" He opened one eye and gave a weak smile. "Because you matter." No one had ever said words like that to her. Tears filled her eyes, but there was no time. Above them, engines roared again. The main ship was descending lower. More hunters. Elias tried to stand and nearly collapsed. Lyra caught him. For the first time, she was the one holding him up. "We must move," she said. They climbed from the crater and entered the deeper forest. Dawn was beginning to rise beyond the smoke. Birds did not sing. Even nature seemed afraid. After an hour, they reached an old stone tunnel built long ago for water lines. It ran beneath the hills and toward the mountains. They hid inside. Cold darkness surrounded them. Lyra tore fabric from her sleeve and wrapped Elias's wounds. Her hands were gentle now, careful and sure. "You learned fast," he said weakly. "In my world, healing was for servants," she replied. "I never touched blood before you." He laughed softly, then winced in pain. She looked down. "In my world, strength means rank, power means fear, but you," she paused, "you have neither, yet everyone stronger than you loses." Elias leaned against the wall. "That is because they fight to rule. Humans fight for people." The words stayed in her mind. Suddenly, silver light moved under her skin again. The marks on her arms brightened stronger than ever before. The tunnel walls reflected the glow. A hidden memory unlocked. She saw her mother placing a crystal device into the royal archive. She heard her voice. "If they come for you, the blood sign will guide you to the core." Lyra gasped. "The mountains. What? There is something hidden there, something my family protected." Before Elias could ask more, a sharp sound echoed through the tunnel. Metal claws on stone. They were found. 3 hunters entered from the far side, blocking the exit. Their weapons charged blue. Elias tried to rise. Lyra stopped him. "No." She stepped forward alone. The hunters laughed. "The broken princess stands?" Lyra raised her glowing arm. The silver lines spread across her hand like liquid stars. A wave of force blasted through the tunnel. The hunters slammed into the wall. Their weapons shattered. They did not rise. Elias stared in shock. "You could do that?" She looked at her own hand, just as surprised. "I never could before," he smiled. "Maybe someone believed in you first." They left the tunnel quickly and climbed the rocky path toward the mountains. Behind them, the black ship moved overhead like a shadow hunting prey. Hours later, they reached a cliff of smooth stone marked with ancient symbols. Lyra touched the wall. The marks on her arm matched the symbols. The mountain opened. A hidden chamber appeared inside, filled with pale blue light and silent machines older than memory. At the center stood a crystal pillar. As Lyra approached, the pillar awakened. A hologram of a woman formed above it, her mother. Lyra fell to her knees. The image spoke, "To my daughter, if you are seeing this, then the throne has fallen." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. The hologram continued. "Within this chamber sleeps the Guardian Fleet, ships bound only to the true bloodline. With them, you can free our people or destroy them." Elias looked around at the awakening machines. Outside, the mountain trembled. The enemy ship had found the entrance. Red lights appeared across the chamber walls. The ancient fleet was powering on. and Lyra had to choose what kind of ruler she would become.
Elias. Oh, Elias, you're alive. I thought I lost you forever.